So then I was thinking about other songs that kind of have unusual paths where different ideas come together. And in some ways, those are my favorite songs. So the Vampire Weekend song that kind of has the squirreliest path to the finished product is probably our song Step, which was on the last album. So if anybody wonders what that sounds like, it sounds like this.
Every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl.
So the way that song started also was kind of like inspired by other ideas floating around. The way that song really came together was there was this, Souls of Mischief?
No.
They started in the early 90s Bay Area rap group. Probably their most famous song was 93 Till Infinity. And this was like a B-side. Or maybe it was never released until recently. But somehow I heard this and I always really loved it. So this was the Souls of Mischief song. I think they were like teenagers from the early 90s called Step to My Girl. Just like good early 90s
hip hop.
Yeah, beautiful old samples.
I used to fret that my honey would play me for one with more pay. Still it was funny cause she paid no mind as jerks lurk constantly. And my insecurity turned into maturity. As the years passed, I find it hard to be monogamous. So do other brothers, so the scene's still synonymous. Catch crazy glares when I'm with female company. Something I'm a softie and they step to her in front of me. So in public places I am often found in my trunk, reaching for bats and smack goes the smoke. Because
I'm hearing the melody and the sax line.
Right, yeah.
What is up?
Da-da-da-da. It's like a little different, but that part's the same.
With numerals, and you soon neuros thinking I'm jelly, cause numbers left in the gutter lead to lonely tellies. So we see who speak we and we see who see. The difference is Vaseline, you slipping while I'm...
Yeah, so I listen to this all the time, and I guess like the melody of the sax kind of seeped into my brain, and then the chorus, which is coming up, which is also samples. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I listen to the song all the time, and I always thought it was like really beautiful. I didn't know what the samples were though.
Like in the 90s you listened to it or...
No, I probably downloaded an MP3 of it in the early 2000s.
Okay, so
I didn't know too much about the origins of it, but I always just knew I really liked this song called Step to My Girl. Then, at some point, sometimes you just start singing in your head, and I guess I sang something that kind of took part of the melody from the saxophone, and then took the line, every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl. There's always something I really liked about that line, because it's not just like there's something about every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl. I don't know, I just liked it. So then I kind of started writing, every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl, and then the gloves are off, da-da-da-da, alright. So I always thought that was really pretty. So then start working on it. So then, of course, when you're working on a song, you got to start saying like, well, okay, what am I actually referencing here? Because I believe good music is full of references, but you can't just melodies have to be cleared. That's how our law works. Other things don't, but melodies have to be cleared. So then I had to look up what Souls of Mischief had sampled. And what they sampled was a song called Aubrey by the saxophonist Grover Washington Jr. from the 70s.
Oh, I'm familiar.
So this is the original sample, the Grover Washington Jr. sample that song's based on. Gorgeous 70s production.
Yeah, this is almost like new age meets smooth jazz. It's a weird period.
There you go.
Gloves are off.
Yeah.
Tender.
Yeah, so the melody goes other places, but the main part is dun dun dun.
So
dun, dun.
you had to clear that.
Well, yeah. So then we're like, all right. So they sampled Grover Washington Jr. playing his song called Aubrey, but then what, of course, I didn't know, but I found out was that this is a cover. So they sampled Grover Washington Jr. doing an instrumental cover of a song called Aubrey.
Written by
Bread.
Oh,
70s soft rock.
we're getting even deeper
Legend.
into the 70s malaise here.
So also like imagine like for me, I'm like, this song is like kind of based on Souls of Mischief, but then little did I know that what I was actually basing the melody off was not Souls of Mischief, was not even Grover Washington Jr., but was Bread. This like real, just kind of smooth 70s easy list. So this is the original song that the melody comes from.
The name of that band is one of the most perfect examples of the name of the band describing the sound of that band.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally white bread.
It's white bread.
my like the band teacher at my high school, Mr. Jackson, he was like a real like old school jazz head. And then we were in jazz band. And this is funny because this is at a predominantly white high school where you're in jazz band, like playing, Night in Tunisia and like old standards. And he would always stop and be like, no, it's not swinging. You sound like white bread. And I just remember being like, I vaguely understood what he was saying, but it's like, the other kids who were just like, basically just there after school to like get a credit from they're applying to college, just be like, Mr. Jackson, I have a field hockey practice coming up. And he'd just be like, no, you can like, just like this like 14-year-olds sounds like, he'd always be like, sounds like white bread and creamed corn. He'd be like, what? Anyway, Bread is very white bread. And this is the original Aubrey that Grover Washington Jr. covered. This is what the original song sounds like. Love those 70s strings.
I remember buying a Bread Greatest Hits in the dollar bin and really wanting to connect, and I just couldn't.
Really? Oh, here, check it out.
And Aubrey was her name, a not so very ordinary girl.
So that's basically it. When
Yeah.
you get down to it, what I interpolated in the song was just this part. And Aubrey was her name.
Her name. Just basically like a 3-note interval at this point.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I guess it's fair though. That is what I based it on. So if you go look at the credits for Step, I believe I'm credited, Rostam's credited, and the guy from Bread is credited. But then it's even deeper than that because so we talked to Souls of Mischief because of course we reached out to them and said we're basing it off these elements of your song, but it turned out the elements of the song that we were basing it off of were not actually their intellectual property. So they were like, well, we sampled Grover Washington Jr. and then we're like, well, that's a cover of Bread. And Aubrey was her name. The gloves are off, the wisdom teeth are out. Yeah, it's the same interval. And then we said, well, the other part that we kind of reference in our song is the chorus. Because remember their song, the chorus goes, every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl.
Yep.
And they're like, well, that's a sample too. So it kind of sounded like a sample. Because if you go back and listen to it, it sounds like they're cutting up records. So it sounded like that probably was a sample. I wasn't like shocked, but I was like, all right, well, what's the sample? And they're like, well, the sample is this not super well-known, not obscure, but like not super well-known New Jersey 90s rapper called YZ. And they sampled his voice on their song, and it came from his song called Who's That Girl?
I don't wanna build a rap. Every time I see you in the world, you always step to my girl.
You hear it?
Yeah, no, I heard it.
You seem confused.
No. It's like, I thought it would be like the chorus or something.
No, it's just like
It's just like a random
verse.
line of
Every
like-
time I see you they made it a chorus.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So then we had to track down YZ, clear it with him.
How'd that go?
I let the business people handle that one because, it can get complicated tracking people down. I don't know if it was via his lawyer or what, but I don't know if anybody talked to him directly, but of course we made sure that it was cleared. But so ultimately I was kind of riffing on this Souls of Mischief song, but then turns out I'm actually riffing on Bread and YZ.
I love that it goes from Bread to YZ.
And also so random that it ended up back at Bread.
Dude, that is so...
Yeah,
like
and Aubrey
epic.
was her name.
It's like so epic and so banal
I know.
at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like and that ultimately is how I feel about music. Is like, of course, if you're sampling somebody or interpolating them, you got to clear it up to a point. But yeah, it's kind of like it's natural in a way. Like it seems crazy that it, and then also the more you think about it, it's like, it's not crazy. We all grew up listening to all sorts of music. People sample stuff. Grover Washington knew this bread song, wanted to cover. It is kind of just how music works. So this is the first song I thought of when I was thinking about the whole Beyonce thing, where people are like, oh, all these different, she stole this line, and it's kind of like, no, it's actually pretty cool that like all these different people came together and she still made the song her own. I would like to think that the Vampire Weekend song, we made our own. You know, like at the end of the day, like I can play you all that stuff and hopefully you still listen to Vampire Weekend and that song sounds like us. You know, we've never tried to hide the references in it, but writing a song like that is not easier.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Writing a song that's not easier than sitting down at the piano. It's just as hard. Like God might give you a melody when you sit at the piano and you still got to do something with it. If bread gives you a melody, you still got to figure out how to write a song around it.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, yeah, like